Hey everyone, welcome to Average Joe Preparedness. My name's Rick, and I'm an average Joe. Okay, first things first, it's friggin' hot. I got the fan on again. I'm sure wherever you are, there's a high potential for it. Yes, this is the way. So, and with that, I saw on, what do you call it, mainstream media, legacy media? I think that's what they call it. They were doing stories about how people are trying to stay cool. And I did a video. I don't know if it's going to go there, guys. I did a video on some of the ideas I just put out there that I'd gotten and I'd used. And it wasn't all encompassing about how to stay cool, maybe with the power out or low power, or even just trying to save money. But one of them I saw, you guys remember this when I talked about putting the stuff on your windows, the reflective insulation stuff? Yeah, it was on main media. And they were talking to a lady, I think she was in, I'd like to say Texas or Florida, someplace where it's really hot. And she had done it. And they actually did a story on that. I was like, way to catch up, people. Yay, catch up with us. Okay, yeah, we're gonna come back to news stories and stuff. I have stuff written down. Yes, I have notes. But the first thing we're gonna do is go over just a couple updates real fast. Yeah, nothing important, but I'm looking real quick. And that is, the second garden bed. I told you guys I have those really large garden beds, and it looks like I'm only gonna do 2, not 3, now that the second one's up. The lovely lady in my life is like, no, I think 2 will be fine. And they're big. They're like, I don't know, they're like 3 feet tall, 6 feet wide, give or take about 6 feet long, give or take about 3 feet wide. So you do the square footage on that, they're huge. So as I mentioned before, I'm not filling them up right now this year, and it's gonna take years to fill them up because I'm not gonna get a backhoe in here. I'm gonna do it a little bit at a time, and I'm doing that back to Eden sort of thing. I'm gonna fill it up with compostable big materials, then less and less. I might grow stuff when it's a little high in the bottom just to see what happens, but it's gonna take years to fill them up. Yay! Also, we're gonna do like a trellis between the two that kind of goes like this so we can grow vining plants like, I don't know, cucumbers or tomatoes or who knows. You guys with me on this one? So they're gonna arch over. That's my plan, we'll see. And now I have to get that chicken coop built and out there, not putting chickens in it, guys. It's just a feng shui until everybody agrees that's where everything is. If people get used to it, then I'm gonna get chickens. Yes, probably next year. Yeah, I know, it's just the way I do things. So, what's the next? Oh, the moisture detector. So, I showed you guys this once in a video, and it's a 3-fer. It has moisture, I'm not putting my readers on, and pH balance, and it also detects how much light is where you put this, so you can see if you got enough light. I used it mostly for the pH to make sure how my yard and my garden was, which actually turned out to be well. But I'm also using it for moisture for those potatoes in the buckets, which are probably not gonna grow this year. Now I'm sure somebody's gonna say, yeah, if you really wanna know the pH and stuff of your soil, blah, 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 you should get it tested. And just testing it out, it changed depending on where I put it, but overall, my yard, my gardens and everything are within a decent, what is it, like 6.5 or something like that, 6.4 area, I think is where things are supposed to be good. So yeah, I use that. What is it? Oh, my corn. Yeah, I'm getting the little ears and they got the little hairs on it. So for the first one, I'm gonna do about once a week, is I hand pollinate. You cut off one of the little hairs on the very top of the plant and then you rub it on all the little hairs of the corn cobs. So we'll see how that works. Supposedly that's how you do it when you only have a few corn instead of a big field where the wind does it. So we'll see how that goes. Zucchini. Hey, did you guys know what summer squash is? I didn't. Summer squash is zucchini. Now somebody's gonna have to help me on this because when I was a little kid, I didn't like zucchini. And when we bought them, they were like these hard, thick skin. They had these like spiny hairs on the outside and they were about this big and I just didn't like them. And so I grew some summer squash and it turns out it is zucchini, but it is way different. And I don't know if it's because we were poor and we could only get poor, cheap zucchinis or whatever, but the skin is thin and it's got a sweeter taste to it and they're just nicer, or maybe that's just because I'm growing in my garden. I have no idea. So zucchini bread, yeah, like 3 loaves of zucchini bread already made. And then I cut up some really thin, and then I did, Parmesan and garlic, and then you put them in a little oil and put them in the oven, and they're actually pretty tasty. I'm gonna try a few other things with zucchini because, and we give it to neighbors and stuff, but I'm gonna try to find things that I can use my zucchini. Yes? Yes. So lots of zucchini off one plant. It's just big one. The first one was like this big, guys. I am not joking. It was huge. Huge, big zucchini, huge. So yeah, and I've got a few more smaller ones. Apparently you're only supposed to go 6 to 8 inches because the plant thinks if it's too big that it's seeding and it'll stop. So you do it at 6 to 8 inches. They're good to eat, and then it keeps making more. Yes, yes. Learning as I go. This is my first year growing zucchini. Yeah, you gotta learn how. What's the last thing I have? Oh, and then not that I'm testing things or whatever. I don't know if you guys are interested. I'm interested. I showed you guys, I got this. I don't know if it's going to be there for my birthday. And I told you I was going to, by the way, did I mention it has a compass? Not that big of a deal. But anyways, I told you it came with like an 80-something% charge. Minutes up. Hold on, guys. I told you it came with like an 80% charge, and I was going to charge it to like 99%. I charged it to 100%. And that was at least, what, a week ago, 2 weeks ago, something. I don't know when the video came out, but look at this. And then I unplugged it at 100%. And then I've just been letting it sit. Still 100%. This thing's holding a charge, which some people might be going, duh, Rick. Yeah, we know it's going to hold a charge. That's what they do. I didn't know, guys. So, and I have it sit in my garage. So this is not a temperature sensitive place or controlled environment. So I'm kind of exposing it to, if you had it in your car, you know, the kind of temperature fluctuations that you would have there to see how it reacts. I'm not testing this product, guys. I'm testing it for me, not necessarily for you, but I'm glad it's keeping a charge. I was afraid I was going to come out here and it was like, boo, you know, all drained, in which case those things wouldn't be worthless in your car. Yes. Okay, now we're going to go over a few things that I noticed in other prepper channels. So I don't know if you guys noticed, but when things get really bad, like tensions, okay, we have heat, we have the interest rates went up again. That's right. If you've been watching, you knew that was going to happen. And if I'm not mistaken, they're going to go up again. They were slated to go up again in the fourth quarter, and they're actually talking about doing it again next year. We had a reprieve like second quarter of this year. So interest rates are going up. So anyways, economy, and then there's heat and inflation, and then there's that war over in Europe, you know, and you'll see the channels will go in certain directions. You with me? So be aware of it. That's all I'm saying is be aware of that. And so you can self-edit. So you can be like, oh, yeah, okay, I get that. Oh, yeah, I get that. No, I understand. Just take it down. So I'm not trying to be a jerk to anyone. And I will, what is it? I call out if it's good, but I don't call out if it's bad because I don't want to get into the fight. But the first one, oh man, I didn't actually catch who said this one. And they did a little video on snakes, if they had found a snake. And I'm like, okay. Yeah, info you, it's hot. And if you are anywhere where there are snakes, you need to be careful of them. Now, luckily, I've talked in videos before that I have snakes in my backyard. They're just garter snakes, guys. And I have one of those old people grabbers that I pick up debris and stuff with. And I'll just grab them, and I'll take them, and I put them down the storm drain, and they go out to the farmer's fields, and they live happily ever after. That's what I think. So I average about 3 a year. This year I've already taken out 3, and I missed one. He got under the rocks before I could get him. And he was huge snake, but a garter snake nonetheless, guys. But yeah. But garter snakes will bite you. So, and I have grandkids, I mentioned that before, and we have a dog, and yeah. So, and one of my grandchildren I mentioned with special needs, and he doesn't need to learn a lesson that a garter snake will bite him in my yard. He can learn that lesson somewhere else. But if you live somewhere where you have more dangerous snakes than that, then I was like, yes, this is something you need to be aware of because the snakes are out. Yes? Yes. All right, next video. Okay. And this is going to roll from ticka. So I always go into the impression, and I did in my former career when I worked for the military, so maybe it was easier then, is when you are 18 years old, and to me, this rolls into preparedness, and even emergency preparedness, practical preparedness especially, but definitely way up here if you're going to go to worst case scenario. And that is, and I don't give me hate, please, guys, but if you are 18 years old, you are an adult. And I mean that in the Gen X old school way, okay? You're a grown-up, which means you are responsible for your actions. I don't care. And I used to have to tell young kids this all the time. You have no idea how many times I had to tell young troops this. is I don't care. I don't care how you were raised. I don't care who raised you, where you were raised. I don't care where you get your information from, if you get it from here, 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 here. You are responsible for your actions. Period. Dot. This blame game, like, oh, I gotta blame this person, I gotta blame that thing, and this, that. No, it doesn't work. And let me explain, and we're gonna build off this too. And let me explain, is you cannot blame some entity or something because you're just gonna keep doing it. And I wouldn't allow it. Not people that work for me. I am blaming you. You are responsible because I can fix you and this will change. Yes? And when I say fix you, I meant it was my job to do that, guys. But let's just take it in general. You take responsibility, you can fix it. You can't fix this entity over here or this TV channel or this news thing. Or I can't fix that, but I can fix you. Again, it was my job at the time, guys. So, but I highly recommend you do the same thing. Is you take responsibility for you. And people don't want to do it. It's like really easy. I mean, you guys can tell me I'm wrong, but I see it all the time. People are like, oh yeah, it's because of this, and it's because of that, and it's because of this. And I'm like, yeah, okay, that's cool if it works for you, but you're not going to fix you. And that's something you need to do when you're a grown-up because there's consequences and it's going to happen. And like I said, now we're going to roll into a case in point. I just read the story again, by the way. It happened like a week ago or 2 weeks ago where they found the bodies, basically, of people who went to live off-grid last year. Yes? Yes. I don't know if you guys have seen the story, but it was 3 individuals. One was a child or young person, if I'm not mistaken. And last summer, they went to live off-grid. They were actually just not, they were like 1,000 feet off a trail, you know. And so they believe they passed. They don't know what caused them to pass yet. They're still looking into it, but they weren't living in a place that was good. It was just like a lean-to. And you know, last winter was bad, and they don't think they had enough food, and they weren't trained for this. And basically, they decided to pick up, and they were going to go live off-grid for whatever their reasons. I don't care. You see what I'm saying? But in the end, they're responsible for their actions. You with me? And then they did interviews with their family members. Their family members kind of knew that they were talking about doing this. They tried to talk them out of them. And one of the family members was like, yo, I got a piece of land out there. Why don't you go practice out there? I got a camper. You can go out there with, you know, and just see. They had opportunities to not just go out into the wild and build a lean-to. Yes? Yes. But they decided to do it. They took it upon themselves. I'm not talking about the child that was with them. I'm talking about the adults. And then they didn't tell their family where they were going. So that was a choice they made. So going out there was their choice. Staying out there when things weren't going well was their choice. Not telling their family where they were going, that was their choice. Not coming back in when things were bad, their choice. Not taking advantage of the opportunities they've been given. Hey, if somebody said, hey, you want to practice? I got like a piece of land out there, and I got a camper, and there's a generator, and you can go out there, and you know, I could live in my lean-to, but then I can always just jump in the camper and crank up the generator or get in the camper and just drive the hell out. You see what I'm saying? When you do things, you are an adult. And I personally, and you guys can correct me if you think I'm wrong, is I think that's what has to do with preparedness. People don't do it. Even basic emergency preparedness, they don't take the responsibility. They put it on someone else. Yes? Yes. And now we're going to get into something negative on one of the prepper channels. It could be on more. I saw it on one. And that is this prepper channel. He came on and he was all mad and he's yelling at the camera about that story, because somewhere in the story, and it was there again today, where they said, well, the only training they had is they read some books and they watched some YouTube videos, that they weren't outdoor people. Well, this guy got on and he was like, oh, you YouTube creators out there, it's your fault. It's your fault because you're putting out this misinformation and you're not doing it. Not my channel. My channel is different and I do these training classes for out there, but you guys, these wannabe preppers and this, that, and the other thing. So basically this channel was blaming everybody. You know, I don't know. It was a blanket thing, except himself, you know, but he was blaming everybody else. And I'm like, I mean, okay, hey, okay, that's cool, except you forgot something. Those people were grown-ups. Whatever channels they watched, which wasn't coming from them, it was coming from their family. Whatever their channels they watched, whatever information they decided to take, that was their decision. Now I'm going to say, am I going to say that every prepper channel is awesome? No. Am I going to say that every prepper channel will teach you how to live out in the wild and off grid. No. And not every prepper channel is for that. My prepper channel is not for that. You know what I'm saying? Worst case scenario. I've gone out there, I've camped, I've built emergency shelters, I've done this and I've done that, and I've gone over stuff in my videos. But if someone watches my videos, which I've never said, you know, you can go, if someone watches my videos and they go out and then it's like in their search history or something and they die, it's not my fault. You see what I'm saying? They made the decision. And anybody who does that, like, I have no idea. Someone, if you want to explain it to me, please, someone explain it to me, how personal responsibility gets taken away. You see what I'm saying? On a whim. So anyways, I just figured I'd mention, you need to be careful of stuff like that, where they're just like, yeah, everyone else is to blame and they're not even responsible. It's these people out here except for me. Yeah. So I'm going to beat this dead horse one more time, guys. You need to learn to accept responsibility for yourself and accountability. That's how you grow. That's how you get through things. That's how you get through trials and tribulations. Because what happens to you has happened to you. You need to learn from that. You need to get accountability and stop blaming things on other people. People do it every day. I see it every day where people blame other people. You're never going to be able to fix that if that's how you do things. And if you want to stay the same, you know what I'm saying? I mean, there's nothing I can do about it, guys. My personal opinion is that's probably a bad idea. Yes. All right, next one. Oh, so I saw the title and I didn't even watch the video. Doesn't matter. But be careful of these. It said, the title was, "Only Real Preppers Will Watch This." And I was like, I'm not watching it. I guess I'm not a real prepper. But anytime you see those things like, only real preppers will have this, or only real preppers know this, then just be careful. And I'm going to say there may have been good information in that one, or in the other videos that have that title to them, but no, it's a bad idea. Only real preppers will blah, blah, blah. Okay, if there's someone out there, if anyone can point to me one person that can do the definition that is the real, that one in all things, in all across the spectrum, then maybe that one person can write the rule book. You with me? But just be careful of that kind of stuff, guys. You know, find out where you are on the preparedness thing, whether it's basic emergency preparedness, some practical preparedness. Hey, if you want to go up here to, you know, worst case scenario, that's your business. But take responsibility for your actions, know where you are, and please remember, there are no rules. There's guidelines, like the first one is, I need to take responsibility for self to get you going down the road. But everybody's different, everybody's situation is different. Please try to shy away from those things, or at least take them with a grain of salt. Yes? Okay, the next one. I notice a video almost every day at least, but it just started a couple weeks ago. If anybody knows different, I'm not telling you who they are, but maybe you'll get it by who it is. But so anyways, about like 2 weeks ago, I started noticing them. Maybe it was a little longer. They put out a video about every day, and it's basically, there is no way to survive what is coming unless you come to one of these little prepper towns that we're going to build, like 10 of them in each state. So we're building these prepper towns, you need to work for it, and that is the only way to survive. Now, okay. Now, don't get me wrong. It's potential if there's like some seriously worst case scenarios, which don't happen very often, but this person's saying that it's happening right now. And this is the only way you will survive, is to become one of these. They're using a different title for it because I'm trying not to narrow this down too much. But again, be cautious. Don't get me wrong. There's lots of prepper communities out there, ones that actually advertise and stuff. Okay, if you can do it, yay, but be careful. So there's one, I'm just off the top of my head because I read a story about it, in Colorado. It's run by a retired colonel. I think he was in the Air Force. And basically it's a vacation place, but it's also set up for preparedness. So you go up there for vacations and set it up in case something happens, then you can go up there and it's, you know, I saw it on TV once too. Okay, if you can afford it, if you can do that, if you're close by, if you think you can travel there, there's a lot of ifs. That's fine. And I've heard of other ones in different places. Okay, these organized things. I'm not saying it's a bad idea. What I'm saying is this person is just coming out and it's 10 per state, and this is the only way to survive. Well, no offense, but remember, we start with basic emergency preparedness and go through practical preparedness. If there's an earthquake in, let's say, California, they're prone to it. Having, you know, these 10 things in each state is not the only way you are going to survive. And the same thing goes if there's like a tornado in Oklahoma or a hurricane in Florida or a blizzard in South Dakota or an ice storm in New England. So you see what I'm getting at, guys. It is not the only, I'm going to just keep saying that. It's fun. It makes my voice hurt though. I have to get a drink off camera. So just be careful of those things. Start here. Basic emergency preparedness, practical preparedness. Like right now, they're talking about the temperature of the water around Florida is really hot. And that's one of the things that contributes to hurricanes. It's hurricane season. It happens every year. I hope if you guys are in that area, because I know I did when I was there, is you are preparing now and not waiting for the last minute. Don't be part of the masses. You see what I'm saying? Basic emergency preparedness and then practical preparedness. If you live in an area like that has hurricanes or is prone to them, it is practical preparedness to be ready for those. Yes, you don't necessarily need to live in a prepper community. Now, I know I'm giving out a lot of information. I know I'm jumping around, guys. It's just, I make notes between making videos of what I'm going to do, and I put this stuff out there because I think it's just something maybe you might want to think about. Yes? Yes. Okay, the next one. They were talking about MAGs, mutual assistance groups. Now, these are maybe not such official groups of people who are in preparedness. They're maybe friends and neighbors and communities and such. And I don't see anything wrong with that, you know, because the more people that are prepared, the less people that are unprepared. And I think that's a good idea. I've talked about that before. But I always know this. Anytime people talk about a MAG, let me rephrase. A lot of time when people talk about MAGs or mutual assistance groups, friends, family, this, that, and the other thing, they seem to make it like rainbows and sunshine. And I'm like, okay. In my former career, I can tell you when there's a group of people and there's a high stress situation, it's not rainbows and sunshine. There's a lot of conflict and you need to know up front. And I saw it on a video and I got to give them props for it, where they understood when something goes wrong and you are in a group, it is not a democracy. Okay, let me tell you a little bit of a story. There's lots of jobs I worked. I worked an entire spectrum when I was in the military because you can, if you want to, and if you take advantage of it. But in almost every job I was in, I made it perfectly clear to my bosses that wherever I was working, there will be one boss. I may have mentioned this before, I'm not sure. There'll be one person in charge. And that's, if you put me in charge of it, there's going to be one person. There's not going to be anybody else. And I told them in my chain of command, I need to know who's in charge, you know, of anywhere. And that's the first thing I did was I always went and found out who is in charge. There has to be a point of contact. That is the way. You with me? One person who's responsible, one person who makes the decisions. Okay, and there was a certain job I worked, and I worked a certain shift, and on my shift, it was the only one where there was one person in charge. Let me explain. On one shift, they had 4 people doing my job, plus the supervisor of all of us. You with me? He was on that shift. On another shift, there was one person who did my job, and that was me. And on another shift, there was 2 people who did my job. You with me? And they were like, well, we can move these people to your shift. And I said, well, if you do, then I'm just going to sit in an office or something, and I'm not going to do anything. There has to be one person in charge. Do you have any idea how difficult it was to get a decision made, to find out any information when I'm trying to deal with 4 or 5 people, trying to get information from these people? Who made what decision? And it was easy. They could just all not take responsibility for it. And when people, we talked about this, about you're an adult and you're accountable for yourself. If you don't have to take responsibility, people just do whatever. You guys with me? And that doesn't work in a tense situation or a high stress situation. One person. I'm just throwing it out there. In my experience, my opinion. So these guys were doing a video on their mag, and I saw a couple, and they were really good. And they were talking about everyone already knows their position. There's one person in charge of this person in charge of this person in charge of this. So when things go bad, everybody knows what they're doing. And they know the chain of command. They know what they're supposed to be doing. People are like, well, that's military. Okay, so what? Yeah, that is the way, if you guys want to go there. Because there isn't time to vote. No one cares. The people who are the subject experts will do this job. You see what I'm saying? You're not just going to come in and be like, well, hell, I think I can. No, I don't care what you think. See what I'm saying? You're going to know that's not the way it works. So in my experience and in my perspective, there has to be a chain of command. There has to be people assigned to certain things, and they all need to know it. Does that make sense? So anyways, what I'm saying is I'm calling out those channels. I thought they did a good job talking about that. And instead of making a mag mutual assistance group sound like it was rainbows and sunshine. So good job, guys. Okay, next one. There's a whole bunch of what I refer to as AI channels. I don't know what they are, guys, but when you click on it, basically the whole video is like 1 second little clips. What do they call those? That you can just download them off the internet. They're generic clips of things. They're about 1 second long, and there's a speaker talking over the top of them. And if you listen really close, every once in a while they like mispronounce something, because I believe it's just a computer generated voice box, for lack of a better term. So and there's not a lot of information in there. It's just general BS. You with me? And so it's like 1 second little clips of people doing things, or a weather thing, or what happens, and there's this voice going over these generic, basic emergency preparedness stuff. And yeah, they are basically a waste of time, and you might want to find them and then just kind of stay away from them. Yes? Okay, and final thing. I don't sit here and read news reports to you guys. You guys should know that if you've been here for a while. But I will bring up things if I think it means something, or I think it's important, or I think there's a lesson to be learned, whatever. So I'm going to be reading. Going to have to get my readers. I'm going to read you this, and I've edited out like names and like what channel on TV it was. But yeah, so I'm going to read this to you as a lesson, for lack of a better term, and it's going to be an off subject, but it's a lesson in where you're getting your information, what they think the priorities are, what society is thinking priorities, I guess. I don't know. I don't watch legacy media very often. This just happened to catch me in one of my feeds, and I thought I'd use it. It was an excellent teaching moment, or teaching opportunity. Yes? Okay, I'm going to try to do this. I hope what I'm doing makes sense. And it does in my mind, excuse me. It does in my mind. I don't know if it's actually going to happen in reality. You guys with me? So I printed this up. I redacted some stuff. I don't guys see that real fast. And so this story was in what I consider more of a liberal publication. Doesn't matter, liberal or conservative. I read them and I judge them both the same way. And this happened. This story was within the last week, 10 days. You with me so far? So this is what they printed. And again, I've edited it. So if I skip over some stuff or it sounds jotty, you'll know why. But yeah, it says, during an episode of a network talk program, the panel discussed the state of Florida's new controversial standards for teaching Black history, which direct teachers to include instructions on how slaves develop skills which in some instances could be applied for their personal benefit, unquote. Okay, so up front, I have no idea what the Florida, what they're doing in Florida, what they're having to teach, mandatory, blah, blah, blah. I don't care because it doesn't concern me. But apparently they're having their teachers, they're instructing their teachers to try to say something positive, or looking at the bright side, I guess, of slavery, okay? Well, first off, I can tell you right now up front, you're gonna lose. You're with me? Because there's so much built up behind that. Even if there was something awesome, I'm not saying there is, guys, please don't come after me. But even if there was, everyone's going to pass it up. You with me? So right there. But that's not what the story is about. This is not what I wanted to talk to you about. That is like the spark. That's the spark. That's the fire that this is based off of. So it says, after a liberal member of the show's panel asked if the same standards be applied to Jews who were captured and tortured during the Holocaust. So let me be clear. A liberal person on the show said, well, should we apply the same standards to Jews who were captured and tortured during the Holocaust? Notice the words, by the way. And don't get me wrong, I know the Holocaust existed or happened, and I know how bad it was. I had family members. Don't think the Holocaust didn't happen. By the way, if you think the Holocaust didn't happen, you should go somewhere else. Yep. Okay, then it says a conservative member chimed in. Always check the words that they use. The conservative member replied by referring to a book, Man Search for Meanings. And it was written by a psychologist, there's a difference, Viktor Frankl, who survived a concentration camp. Okay, let's recap. So this conservative person chimed in, whatever, replied by quoting from a book written by a psychology professor who survived a concentration camp. Yes? Yes. So he said, Frankl talks about how to survive in a concentration camp, you had to have skills. You had to be useful. Utility. That kept you alive. So he's actually quoting what a Holocaust survivor wrote in a book on how people survived. And that's by having utility. Okay, I don't see anything wrong with that. Not in context, I'm saying nothing wrong with doing that. Now listen to this. The White House, are you guys with me on this one? The White House responded to this. This little thing right here, the White House responded, issuing a scathing rebuke of the remarks. It said, what this channel allowed to be said and aired yesterday and has so far failed to condemn is an obscenity, spokesperson Andrew Bates said in a statement. In defending a horrid, dangerous, extreme lie that insults the memory of millions of Americans who suffered from the evil of enslavement, a news host told another horrid, dangerous, and extreme lie that insults the memory of millions of people who suffered from the evils of the Holocaust. Okay, first off, I have no idea why the White House is getting involved. That's asinine, especially since a lot of people would argue right now the White House probably has a lot of other things they should be concerned with. And sometimes I found what people do is they'll do a distraction. You come in, I'm going to blame and make a big thing and blah, blah, blah. But I'm sure that's not what's happening here. The next problem I have is they say that it is a horrid, dangerous, and extreme lie and insults the memory of millions of people who suffered from the evils of the Holocaust. Yet all he did was take a small mention, but it was a quote out of a book that was written by a Holocaust survivor. So can anyone tell me how it was a horrid, dangerous, and extreme lie that insults the memory? It isn't. Okay. What they're doing is they're trying to make this person a bad person. Does that make sense? And that's what people have to do when they have no other choice. You with me? So, yeah. Watch for it and be careful. When someone has no reason, first off, this is the White House. Why are they even getting involved? But if someone has no reason to get involved in the first place, and then they basically use these really emotional words to make someone look bad, you might want to look at the whys and the wherefores. Yes? I'm just throwing it out there. Okay, guys, personally, on the story itself, I'm not taking sides because, again, what happens in Florida schools doesn't affect me. I don't have children in school. And people can argue left and they can argue right, blah, blah, blah. I don't care. That's not the point. The point of the whole thing, let's build up to it, is why is the White House commenting on this? Why is the White House going after a person and basically using this inflammatory language when he actually quoted a book from a Holocaust survivor? You guys picking up what I'm laying down? Yeah. Anyways, like I said, I don't know if you guys are going to track where I was getting at with this. Is these things are dangerous. It is dangerous if you just follow along and don't think. You with me? And remember, go back a few minutes in this video. You are responsible for what you do. You are. Where you get your information and what you do with it. Yes? Okay, that was deep and dark. Yes? Oh, I didn't warn you guys. Usually at the beginning of videos, I say if I'm going to go dark. And I didn't. Sorry, guys. All right, let's try to lighten this back up again. Tomorrow, birthday party, one of the grandkids. That's right. Coming over here, and we got balloons and little gift bags and a huge cake. Do you guys know how big a sheet cake is? If you get a whole one? Seriously, a whole sheet cake. It's like off screen. It's huge. Can't even put it in the fridge. You're gonna empty the fridge out. It ain't fitting anywhere in the fridge. That's how big a sheet cake is. So, yeah. Somebody learned that today. It wasn't me. I knew how big a sheet cake was. Somebody else learned that lesson. They're like, I didn't know. I was like, well, you know now. So, yeah, there's going to be cake. There's going to be ice cream. There's going to be like a little bouncy house and like a thing, bouncy house kind of that squirts water and stuff. It's just going to be a good time. Good time had by all. Little kids running around, and yeah, I'm looking forward to it because part of basic emergency preparedness, practical preparedness, whatever, is living your life. And I hope everybody who comes to this channel at least walks away with a little piece of that. And that is, your life needs to be lived and it needs to be enjoyed. Yes, that's the whole point. The whole point of basic emergency preparedness, practical preparedness, and I'm sure if you ask the people that were up here in worst case scenario, is the whole purpose of this stuff is so that you can enjoy the life you have now. So you can be relaxed because you are prepared, because you have the things to make life easier. Yes? So don't ever miss it. Don't ever miss life, guys, because it goes by fast. And the older you get, I just had a birthday. You guys know I'm like 50 something. The older you get, the faster it goes by. Okay, my experience. All right, and I'm sure if you ask a bunch of old people, Gen Xers, if you ask a bunch of old people, they'll probably tell you the same thing. Enjoy your life. Yes? All right, guys, I'm going to go eat probably some more of that zucchini bread because it's really good. And it's healthy for me because I make it with organic stuff and blah, blah, blah. It doesn't matter. It's really tasty. So I'm going to leave you guys now. Yes? I hope this finds you well. I hope you are happy. I hope you are positive. And I hope for whatever belief that you have is coming at you or whatever you think you need to be. I hope you are being prepared.